Hello!
Hello everybody! Welcome to episode 7 of the Agents of Sigmar Tuesday Night Live / podcast. For July the 12th this is being recorded and we are calling it Updating Battlemasters or something like that. Old blast in the past. If you've been following our YouTube channel you'll know that we had Valentin in the studio a few weeks ago and we've started publishing the videos we recorded with him playing Battlemasters, which I believe came from about the 1990s.
Yes, it did. It was early 90s, I believe. It was another thing, a bit like Space Crusade and Hero Quest. They're all MB, GW mashups, and it was good fun. I quite enjoyed those games.
Yeah, absolutely. So we'll talk more about Battlemasters later, but a quick, I don't know whether this will happen or not, but I did notice on our Discord that Valentin has now bought Space Crusade. So whether we will be able to get him back in next time he's in the UK or maybe sometime down the line when he's in the UK and we can get him into Space Crusade would be hella fun.
We need 4. We need another person for that. We definitely need 4 because you need one for each of the Space Marine chapters and one for the aliens.
We have options. We have options.
We do.
We could pay somebody to come. Yeah.
That'd be fantastic.
Excellent. So yeah, so that would be really cool. That would be really cool. So we'll talk about updating Battlemasters later. It'll be about 45 minutes in if you just want to jump straight to that. But for now, we'll crash on with what we've been up to and our news, and then we'll do the roundup of the GW news. There's been quite a lot of GW news this week,
as always,
because they had the skirmish reveal. What do they call it? And then I forgot what they call it. But they had their live chat where they talked about what was coming in their smaller boxed games.
Yep.
Well, still quite big boxes, really, but
huge boxes, small model counts.
They're skirmish games. Yes.
I mean, in the grand scheme of things,
so,
with how GW are pricing things these days, like the Horus Heresy stuff and that, they're not that big in comparison anymore. It's like £80-90 boxes. Oh, they're cut price, them ones.
Oh, yeah, exactly. You feel like you've got a bargain. Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's just I can't say it's sustainable, but I always say that, and it just seems to carry on being sustainable.
I'm sure.
So I think
we said exactly the same thing about a year ago. I can't keep up at this rate.
Yeah, the economics of Games Workshop is a fascinating topic of discussion for a future Tuesday Night Live, but unfortunately I don't think we're the people to do it. I don't think we know enough about the industry.
Possibly not.
But
then you've only got to look at things like, I know we're already going off topic because that's what we do here, but I mean look at things like they've had like 2 Warcry releases. They're just boasting another one now. Feels like the last one only came out a few months ago, and I know it was a preview, but it's not going to be that far in the future, is it?
No, I feel like that was longer ago than perhaps we think.
Maybe.
But we're talking about covers in a minute, but this is a whole new box, isn't it, with new rules.
Yeah.
So But anyway, so what have we been playing? Before we go on to the news, what have we been playing?
So we tried to stream a game of Oathmark, didn't we, with John?
Did we stream it? When you say try to, we did stream it.
We did, yeah. I mean, I looked back at it afterwards and it wasn't great, but we'll come on to
Is it a bit shite?
that a little later on.
Okay, oh dear, that's a shame. It was really good fun to play. I mean, playing with John's models is always a pleasure because they're so beautifully painted. And it was really great to play Empire. And I kind of harkened back to Battlemasters a little bit. But I played with his Empire models, and he played with his goblins.
It was great as well.
It was just really fun.
Sorry, go on.
No, it was really good fun. That's I finished.
And no, keep going. It was fantastic to see the old, units of troops again, like back in days of yore or days of mine, either one, and
mid-yore.
The ranks of archers and troops and stuff like that. And I know it seemed very small, but we did play. It was a very small game. It was only like 500 points or something like that. I could see if you had like 1,000 points or even 1,500, you'd start to get cavalry and some heroes and some monsters in there, and it started to really, really feel like good old-fashioned Warhammer fantasy battle days. And the other thing I liked about it, and we probably could do a whole episode on Oathmark, but I think we had done our opinions video on Oathmark. But I liked the simplicity of it. It was nice and easy. You didn't get bogged down in combat faff and stuff, so it was really good to see. It
does seem to have solved quite a lot of the old issues of Warhammer Fantasy Battle. but maintaining that essence of the old world. I know it's not set in the old world, but that kind of old school fantasy, and it kind of shows with a bit of thought how you can streamline mechanics in a way that GW don't. Now I know we only played a very basic game, and I'm sure you can add wizards and heroes and make it probably does make it slightly more complicated, but everything pretty much I think span off one roll for each combat. So you just roll dice equal to the number of fighters in your frontage, and you just take up add a couple of or you compare one of your stats, take off the value of your opponent's stat, and if you get over that number,
that's what you need.
Then you hit, and that's done. And then there's no saving throws or anything like that, so you haven't got that horrible feeling I hate. I particularly remember when we played a game of 40k where it was just like a war of attrition trying to shoot your Death Guard. Now I know Death Guard are particularly bad for it, but it's kind of like you just had save after save after save. It just like, so I rolled 50 dice and I hit with 10 of them, and then I wounded with one of them and you saved it. Or no, it was more than that though, I hit with 5 of them, you saved that one, and then you had another go at saving it and you saved that. So after all that dice rolling, nothing happened.
I think things like that, like Warcry, things that condense the rolls down into one single, and I'm trying to think of the right phrase for it, but one single roll, an amalgamated roll of types, which just creates that single dice roll, really simplifies things, and I think it's a great way to get these games going forwards. But anyway, we've talked enough about Oathmark for now, but it was a great game.
Yeah, I'm right. I'm just going to try and turn you down because you're vibrating my head through my speaker. So I'm just going to say, so it might go horribly wrong. Thanks for that. It might go horribly wrong.
Whilst Robin fiddles with himself, I'll talk about the next bit in the sequence. It was 0200 Hours was the next game we played, and we played a tester game of that one. We're hoping to stream that next week, hopefully, all being well. Next week.
We were going to do it this week, but as we'll come on to, we've got some more kit. 0200 Hours is a World War II based game. On Instagram I painted well, I didn't paint them on Instagram, but I put photographs on Instagram afterwards of my Germans, my Nazi troops, the guards, and I've just almost finished the English, but it's too, or the Allies I should say, but it's too effing hot to paint today, so I didn't really do very much. I think I did a little wash on the flesh and thought that'll do. That's enough.
Always make sure
you wash. Just sweaty looking at.
Always make sure you wash your flesh.
Exactly. But yeah, that's a neat little game. There's not much point in spoiling how it works. But it's a neat little game with some card-driven mechanics which I quite liked. So we will, and some hidden movement stuff. So we'll be putting that on a stream. Hopefully, a more efficient stream than our last one, and then doing a little wash up of that too.
Yep.
And another video we've got coming / what we've played is Unmatched. So I think we talked about the fact that we were going to play it, and we have played it, and I have cut the video. I cut the video.
You did? Yeah.
Doesn't happen very often, does it? And it's all ready to go when we catch up with the schedule, because I think, talking of the schedule, we have a Moonstone game that's ready to go.
We do.
Any time now.
Probably be this Friday or Saturday, or knowing me, Sunday morning. But yep, this weekend.
This weekend release, yes. So I get first game of Moonstone on the channel, which I'm looking forward to displaying. And I've been so caught up in getting these 0200 hours just finished and playing Oathmark that I've got neglected my Moonstone really, so they're just sort of sitting waiting to be painted. I know you've had a couple of issues with the resin.
Oh yeah, they did. I've not had many resin things, but anything resin I've had before has been GW, and these ones were particularly because I didn't wash them, because I'm like, you don't need to wash them, rubbish. So, fairy tales, this old wives' tales, this washing resin nonsense. But afterwards, I sprayed them black, and then I started to dry brush because I was slap chopping them, and I was dry brushing on the grey, and it was just, the paint was flaking off in places, and it was. I also noticed when I took the blue tack off to then paint the areas that I obviously had blue tacked them to hold them on the base whilst I sprayed them. Whilst the spray adhered a lot more to other parts of the model, the paint itself would not adhere to the model at all when I was trying to paint that on, so that was very strange. So then I had to.
Where the blue tack
yeah, I don't know if that's just because it was where the blue tack was, or it's just the whole model would have been like that had I not sprayed it to start with.
Yeah.
But I had to then.
Well, I didn't have that. I painted our first lot of Moonstone Meads, and I actually completely forgot to wash them, and I didn't have any trouble with them at all. So I guess maybe it's just luck or not luck.
Could be
of the draw.
Could be, yeah.
On that one.
I shall definitely be double washing in hot soapy water any future Moonstone models I get though.
Okay, yeah, I probably mine assemble, or the bits that I'm going to assemble ready to go, so I might give them another wash before. I have washed them once, so I might give them another wash before,
just to be safe,
before spraying them up. Yeah. Videos we've released 2 Battlemasters videos, and true to the way things normally work, the first video went gangbusters.
Yeah.
Got
700-800
views.
Yeah,
quite a lot for us. And the second one
about
has fared less well. Let's say. I guess people were interested, and then I suppose yeah. But it's but do go and watch the second one if you haven't seen it. And then we've got 3, 4, or 5 coming. So please do watch. But they were really good fun to make, so it was nice to capture them. Clearly, some people have really enjoyed them. We've had some really lovely comments on them, which is nice.
Yeah, and they were easy to edit if nothing else. I feel like yeah, it's a shame, but yeah, it is what it is. With see how the next ones do. They're all there now, so they're going to get edited. And they're going to get released regardless.
Yes. I've just realised I've done my timings wrong on this thing here. I'm just going to change them again.
We're not going to know what's going on there.
In-stream time changing. What have you been painting, Pete? You have been painting your troll.
I've been trying to. I've been starting to paint the Bristlenose, the troll for Moonstone, and I've got the others slap chopped ready to go. I just need to find some time.
It's a lovely troll model.
It is fantastic, and I'll definitely not do it justice. But I'm going to be slap chopping and contrast painting the whole thing, because I figure it's going to be better done like that and actually being finished than never being finished. So that's why I'm going to go with it. Yeah,
I torn with mine. Because I've been painting these. I've been painting my 0200 hours miniatures, and I've been painting those quite fast because we need to get them painted up. But I kind of want to take a little bit longer on the Moonstone minis, but I'm just worried that I'll get bogged down. And then we won't get them done. So we'll see when the time comes. They're just such wonderful minis. I almost feel like they deserve the extra time to be spent on them. But whether I have that extra time is an entirely different question. The answer's probably no. My wife will certainly tell you it's no.
Yeah, I've got a few other. I've still got the Death Guard that I started to paint, and I've just not got very far with them. I think it's the same thing there. I just need to.
Okay.
If I'd slap chopped them, they'd be done by now, but they wouldn't be as good as they could be. But right now, they're nowhere near done. So that's a lot less good than a slap chopped model that's finished.
Yes, but it's a done versus not done argument, and I guess it depends on where your. This needs to be a subject for another day as well.
Yeah.
It depends on your motivation for painting. But yeah, I think maybe we'll do that next time. What's your motivation or something about painting? Yeah, I've been also painting Black Panther, and I spent an awful long time on Black Panther, and he's rubbish. I'm a bit disappointed with that.
Oh no!
But he's not rubbish. He's not rubbish. But I thought I'd try and do a bit of fancy N&M on the silver on his necklace, and it just looks like I've painted in different shades of grey.
See, non-metallic. Well, better to try and fail than to never try at all in some respects.
Yeah, maybe, but with metallic paints, I'm not sure that's true.
Well, I mean, I don't bother. I just keep doing what I've always done, and
I thought it would, because I've had some success in the past with very small bits. So I thought, it'll work okay, but it didn't. I mean, it's all right, but it's not as good as like all these things. It isn't as good as I imagine it would be.
Sadly, like so many things in life. I have tried a little bit of wet blending on the troll's skin. I've had a couple of different shades of green. I've put like a lighter green down, and then I've used a darker green to put in splotches, and then sort of so he'll look like a mottled green effect, hopefully. So I've been doing a little bit of wet blending there with that, but it'll probably come out crap. But
Yeah, there are literally 3 people watching them tonight. Right. One of them's me.
Well, hello to the other 2 of you. Say hello in the chat. Go on, so we know not to.
Battlemasters is clearly.
So we know not to give up and end it all.
Clearly, bringing the boys to the yard. Never mind. Well, thank you for watching or listening. If you are, if it is you are one of the 2. Hopefully, I haven't managed to log in twice.
If runaway success and getting the numbers was our drive, we'd have quit ages ago. That's all I'm saying. So
I remember when I thought we were going to be successul. I remember those days.
I think real life hit and we stopped trying.
Yeah, I'm going to blame COVID.
Yeah, bloody COVID.
I think I've blown that before. I'm just repeating myself now. So what have we got coming up? Well, we've got a couple of big bits of news really. We've talked about 200 hours that we're going to be doing. So that's the kind of main game, and then we've got some Moonstone obviously in the pipeline as well after that. But we are going to try and shift a little bit how we do things on the channel. I think mainly because after 5 years you've got fed up with editing.
A little bit, but also I don't think I've yet to be proved right or wrong at all. It's just a theory. I just don't think
I've yet to be right.
I don't think it's. I just don't think the extra amount of time that is put into editing the videos makes that much difference based on how long our videos are and the kind of things we cover. I don't think that if we had made if the editing quality of them was much higher, then we would get more views, because it's not. We don't get the views in the first place. So it's YouTube. We don't fit into YouTube's algorithm. Is what I'm saying.
We don't seem to. It's a bit chicken and egg, maybe, to me, or not chicken and egg, or I don't know. But I feel like if you can get the views, then having the quality will be more views. If you're not getting the views, there's probably not much point in upping the quality. That much.
Yeah, there is that kind of thing. But I feel like because our videos are long anyway, for the most part, and they're not action-packed, short 5-minute bits of nonsense that the kids will watch these days. And as we discussed before, a large portion of our viewer base are probably like us, and we don't watch videos online because who's got the time for that nonsense? Just means that it's all a bit. Yeah.
So we're going to be streaming games, which might mean we actually play more different things. Because in some ways, if we're not trying to each week record them, because I think certainly pre-COVID, we got caught in a trap trying to record the perfect game.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, definitely. And not wanting to screw up and kind of like the Oathmark game. I know I've never played it before, so I really didn't have anything to lose whatsoever. It was just quite liberating just to play
and just go, I'm just going to do this,
and just and just see what happens. And I actually quite like that. If we cast our net a bit wider, then it kind of feels like it doesn't really matter whether it goes wrong or not. So I'm sort of interested, and I was going to say this later, but therefore I'm sort of interested in a new Warcry. But perhaps I'll cover that later when we talk about GW.
You know what Warcry needs? Hexes. That's what it needs. That's what I'm saying.
Well, yeah. Well, maybe if we play it, we can hexify it. But I also think, therefore, so we're going to do more streaming. So you've bought a bit of kit, which is very exciting. We're going to try that out next week. Oh, there it is. Look at that. Oh, it's very, very shiny.
The Meta Mini.
It looks like a ZX Spectrum.
It is a little bit. It's got. I won't bother unboxing it because people aren't listening to the podcast going to see it. But it's a little black. It's a black magic buy, and it's called the A10 Mini. And basically, you can put up to 4 cameras in it, and then you can set up lots of basic stuff in there with some software to.
And what does Mrs. Copper think about this?
You can set up lots of things to have like picture-in-picture and do all of the green screen and all that kind of stuff. And it means that can handle all of the gutsy stuff like that, and it just passes a single signal through to the Mac, and it's just a couple of buttons. You just press a button. I want camera 1, I want camera 2, I want camera 3, I want camera 4 in camera 3, blah blah blah, that kind of thing.
I could totally see why you have basically been pleasuring yourself about this for the last 2 or 3 weeks.
But I did notice,
and now suddenly the reason you want to move to streaming becomes clear.
Yeah, I definitely noticed when we streamed Oathmark, the audio got out of sequence sometimes. I noticed the cameras the cameras froze up at points in the feed, and I was editing it.
Well, we noticed that we had a problem with the camera on the way, didn't we?
Sorry?
We had a problem in game, as it were, with the camera.
Yes, so I'm hoping this will do away with a lot of those problems, and we will just be able to set up a few basic views.
Is it for tech idiots like me? Is it effectively like a graphics card but for streaming? Now, obviously, it doesn't do the same job as a graphics card, but it basically does the gutsy stuff that graphics card takes that away, that burden off the processor.
Yeah.
And this basically takes the streaming, the burden off the computer to do the streaming.
Yeah, so basically we should then be able to be much more efficient and streamlined with our live stuff. We'll be able to have the 3 cameras hooked up, so you'll either be able to see our beautiful faces, or the tabletop, or the dice tray if we've got the dice tray or whatever, and it'll just work better, hopefully.
Cool. Cool. So I sort of hope, and I put this in here in our little note. I hope this might mean we might do a few more board games.
Yeah.
Because it'll be easy for us to set up a board game and stream it, and maybe I could start getting through my board game collection, which would be quite nice. So that'd be fun. And then our other big piece of news.
Huge.
I'll let you unveil it, Pete. I'll let you unveil it. It's the biggest thing we've ever done, really. I think
so. I think this is probably the biggest thing in the history of Agents of Sigmar. We're organising AgentsCon 22.
Yeah, so there's AgentsCon 2022, and ironically, it's going to be on the 24th and 25th of September, which is almost exactly, I think, exactly 2 years after we should have done the mini AgentsCon thing at the Tabletop Gaming Live exhibition that was going to be in London in 2020, which obviously didn't happen. And so we're not doing that because it's in Manchester, which is a bit far. And actually they didn't invite us. I think there was an email. I just thought, I'll wait and see how that plays out. I think it was like this time last year, maybe. I thought, I'll wait and see how that plays out with COVID. I won't reply now. They never got back in touch. Anyway, that's by the by. So we're going to meet in Market Harborough near our sort of sponsor. Well, certainly kind of sponsoring the event, but our sort of Will and Games, who we love. One of their, I don't know if he's their employee, I'm not sure quite what his relationship to them is, but he certainly does lots of work for them. He has sort of offered up that sort of semi-sponsorship deal, and it's going to be in Market Harborough in a little hall somewhere near Will and Games. And it's going to be fun. Yeah, I mean, if you want to come along,
because we've maybe oversold it a bit calling AgentsCon. We are literally just going to be hiring a hall and then bring a bunch of games along. And there'll be tables spare.
Yeah, it's a con, really. That's right.
Any patrons, current or recent past, will be able to come along for free. With the
or new, Pete. This is the key thing. Yes. If you're watching, both of you who are watching and aren't patrons, if you sign up, even at the £2 level, you can come along for free and meet Robin and Pete, and play games with them, and think, bloody hell. My £2 is really bad.
And we're not going to be organising like a big event this time round. There's not going to be like a tournament, because we would like, what do we want to play? Do we want to play Underworlds? Do we want to play Marvel Crisis Protocol, Aeronautica Imperialized, Blitzball? So what we're actually going to do is we're just going to bring a whole bunch of games. We're going to set up a bunch of tables. Aaron from Will and Games is also going to bring along some stuff, a Marvel Crisis Protocol table and a Moonstone table, and we might be able to bring some stuff along for a Moonstone table as well, potentially. Blitz Bowl, all those board games that we got sent that we've like played a game of, like not Kill Team, Fire Team and Bladeborn, all those kind of things. We can bring a bunch of those along, set them up, people can come along and have a play, but also there'll be tables there, so if you're not a patron and you want to pay, I think we might be looking at maybe a £5 to get in, just to cover costs of the hall. But if you want to come along with some friends and you want to bring some games and play, it's all going to be there. So
yes, so if you sort of reiterate that, if you sign up to the Patreon even now, you can, or even next month, you can come along for free. Patrons get it free, so you could in theory sign up for the £2 level. Just do it for a month and then cancel it, and you save yourself £3 because we're going to do £5 a ticket just to come in, just to cover our kind of cost of hiring the hall and such like. So you can come along and play games with us, or just play games. Just come and have a chat.
Yep.
£5 to come and have a chat with me. It doesn't seem like very good money for me. But and then who knows what will happen. I think there's a curry in the offing in the evening, although we're not paying for that. And so basically it is a way of us, because we met some of our patrons back in 2019, maybe the very beginning of 2020 actually. We haven't met them, we've talked to them, they've kept us going through COVID all that time, so we're going to basically an event to meet them, but we thought we'd throw it open to other people. I know there are a few fans of the channel who don't support us. They don't support us, there aren't patrons for various reasons, so if you want to come along, it would be great to see you as well.
Yep.
So there you go, the AgentsCon, and I'm actually really quite excited about it, and a little bit terrified because I don't really like people.
Yeah, we're like massive introvert extroverts. Is there a thing for that? Extroverted introverts?
I'm right on the borderline. Because I did back in the day when I used to have a proper job. They did the old Myers-Briggs thing, and I was introvert, extrovert.
Was that a Friends Provident? I think they did that when I was there.
Yeah.
I think they did that for everybody, and I was just, they just said that I was a sociopath. Anyway, so we haven't got all the details sorted out as yet, but we keep an eye on Facebook and Twitter and everywhere else, because we will put out more information as we go.
We will announce.
Right now, Market Harborough, September 24th. That's the dates to keep in mind, and we will update people.
It's probably the biggest event of the year. I would say forget Paul McCartney at Glastonbury. Forget Adele in Hyde Park or whatever.
No one cares about
that. And all that. They do the World Cup at the end of the year. Forget all that. AgentsCon 2022, Market Harborough.
Yeah.
And there will be T-shirts.
There will be,
as well, when the time comes. Okay, very quickly, because we're starting to get behind time now. A little community shout out. I've been really busy the last couple of weeks, so I haven't spent much time looking at what other people have been doing. So I'm just going to shout out a few places I've seen good reports, and I say I've seen them, these are also patrons have seen them, and good reviews, reports about the new Citadel paints. I think we're all kind of interested in how they're going to crash out, how they're going to go. The new, I've completely forgotten the word, contrast paints, the new contrast paints that are coming. So Taylor Painters, who I think is a really good source for painting stuff, that's a blog. Several people like that. They've done a really good breakdown. And then there's videos from Vince Venturella, I think he's a Golden Demon winner, and he does lots of stuff with GW. Ninjon, who I'd never heard of, I don't think, before. Ed pointed out to me, and Pete the Wargamer, who has totally stolen your name, Pete. And you should have words.
I'm annoyed by the fact that he's so much more successful at something I wanted to be successful at, and he's used my name. But yeah, Pete the Wargamers was the one I actually watched, and he does a fantastic job of comparing the two paints, or the new paint and like older paints, which is great, because then you can see, I really like. I can't think of what it is now. One of the paints I really love, Wildwood, I think it is, and he does like one of the new paints. He's like, here's Wildwood and here's the new one. You can see just how the colours are different, and it was just really good. Really helped me to tell which ones I definitely.
I find Wildwood a little bit dark. Just going to throw that out there.
You thought
Wildwood just a bit dark. I always end up Wildwood. I find it a bit dark. I always have to thin it down.
But that's why I think one of the first new paints he goes through on his video, which is called, because it's one I'm definitely going to buy, Garagax Sewer, I think it is. It's definitely looks like a much nicer brown. So I will be getting that along with probably about 12 others.
Badgers Nadgers, that's my favourite. Anyway, so those things. So that was Taylor Painters, Vince Venturella, no biggie there because you've got a massive following. Ninjon and Pete the Wargamer for your contrast painting expertise in video and written format. So only 5 minutes behind schedule.
Yeah, we're fine.
It's time for the news. GW had their big skirmish live stream this weekend. I was in, sounds more dramatic than it was, I was at the hospital with my sister at the time, so I didn't really see it, so I had to follow it what happened afterwards. And it was all fine, by the way. I guess the big news for our core listeners and our original fan base would be the Underworlds' new Witch Hunter warband, Hexbane's Hunters. Which is quite exciting because it's a Cities of Sigmar warband.
They are kind of Cities of Sigmar, aren't
they? That's quite exciting for me. It's the closest we've had to Cities. I mean, I guess they are Cities of Sigmar, but Cities of Sigmar, it turns out, it's quite. I've never really, because I tend to read it. It's actually quite hard to say out loud.
Cities of Sigmar. Sigmar.
Cities of Sigmar.
Cities of Sigmar.
Exactly. Not like that.
Special moves.
Yes. That's a turn up for the books. It's got 6 fighters with mixture of melee and range attacks, I think, and 2 dogs.
Not one,
2
but
dogs.
2. 2 of the goodest boys.
I know people seem to like. I don't know whether just because I don't really like animals. I mean, I do like animals, but I don't really like dogs or cats that much. I don't. They just don't. I know that makes me a freak. And not very English. But the dog models, I mean, they're fine.
They're not great. They're not great. I agree.
They're fine. There's nothing wrong with them, but they don't thrill me.
No, I mean, I looked at them both. The one that's got like an eye patch thing, that one just looks like a grey blob.
I don't think it is an eye patch. I think it's just like because funny enough, our neighbour's cat, who is lovely, but he's quickly backpedaling, has only got one eye, and it really does. They just kind of, I guess it's just where they've stitched it over or whatever. He's just, I think the dog is just like the eyes on that. I don't think it
might be. It looks that one looks the rubbish out of the two. I don't know if it's the paint job because the other one's meant to look like
I quite liked it.
Did you?
I quite like that one more. Yeah.
The other one was okay. It looked at least more dog-like to me, the way they painted it up. But I was just like, they're not the greatest of. They're not that exciting. I mean, even looking back at like Gruul,
they're not.
Gruul was a pretty crap model, to be honest. When you looked at it in the the Godsworn Hunt box, it wasn't great. So
yeah, he basically his model was reflecting his stat line.
Yeah,
put it that way.
Yeah. No one cared about what he looked like because he didn't last
but I
very
think
long.
the human models were good. I like the human models, and they've got interesting mechanics. Haskell Hexbane. I'm not overly keen on the naming of these models, but Haskell Hexbane. He's not bad. I mean, he's not great though. I mean, 3 move, 3 1 shield, 3 wounds. That's asking to be killed.
Yeah.
I mean, that's an uninspired. That's worse than an uninspired Stormcast model. Yeah. Which I know Stormcast are the peak, I suppose. But and I guess there are 6 models in the warband, so maybe you just keep them at the back. He inspires when he kills someone.
Same as Magor.
But killing someone is not going to be easy. He's got Grievous, but he's only got pistols.
Yeah. Range
so only does 1 damage. I mean, Grievous will help with Whittle, but that's going to be tough. But he has this interesting kind of mechanic, which kind of goes in with the sort of desperado witch hunter feel, which is price of victory. Reaction uses after a friendly hunter is dealt damage that would take them out of action. After the out of action check, give the fighter 1 upgrade from your hand, or remove 1 charge or 1 move token from this fighter, and do not spend any glory points to play the card, which is kind of cool. So it's kind of like getting more and more irritated as his compadres get taken down, which I kind of like. And it's, I think we haven't played the game that much in recent times, but I think the reaction is quite carefully worded so that it doesn't get stopped by that horrible at the end of an activation
nonsense
window, which is good. And then one of his upgrades that goes with him is Bane of Evil, which he gets cumulative benefits the more people who die. So, or the 4 friendly hunters who die. There's some suggestion. I think they said that the dogs weren't the hunters, so they wouldn't count for the dog. But if the hunters are dead, so they get, if one's out of action, they get +1, but he gets +1 wound. If 2 out of action, he gets an extra dice for his attacks, and then 3 out of action, he gets an extra damage.
Which is
I
mean, at that point, he's rolling 4 swords with Grievous, 2 damage base, so that's meatier.
Yeah, that's pretty tasty, but it comes at a cost.
Yes.
And I guess you're going to be making sure he's left alive.
Yeah.
At the end.
Yeah, send Ilya Chafin first, and then get him to chew through him afterwards. They had the classic thing of they've got a big guy with an axe, they've got a woman with an axe, they've got another. I think there's another woman who's got a crossbow, but the crossbow bolt has like the atypical, not atypical, the stereotypical black bomb, like Acme bomb, sort of attached to it, which I thought was quite cool.
Oh, okay, yes.
So there must be, it's got to be some kind of upgrade card or a ploy card where you fire and it's explosive and hits everybody around them or something. It better be at least.
It better be that. Or you just fire it and nothing happens.
Yeah.
Or maybe it bounces randomly around the scatter, like the cannon in
Battlemasters.
Brilliant. Yeah. They also announced a new Warcry set.
No release date.
Which they had said that they were going to. The can't even say it now. The Heart of Gur.
The Heart of Gur.
And I'll come on to the set in a second. I'm slightly frustrated that Underworlds was set in Gur and now isn't. And then they brought a new set for Warcry, which is set in Gur.
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't really matter, but I just kind of feel like, come on, GW, tie it all together. That would feel better to me. But anyway,
I wonder if because they were looking to hire people, weren't they, to work on things like Warcry and Underworlds stuff. I'm hoping that maybe they're going to start tying those things together a bit more, because it was a bit dull. I mean, I don't mind that they didn't match, but it's just a bit dull that we had something in Gur and now we've got something else in Gur, and I'm like, I'm
exactly,
with Gur.
Yeah.
Give me one of the other realms.
Gur. Yeah, Gur. It's too much fur in Gur.
It's not fur. It's not fur and Gur.
And the two warbands, I really like both of them in isolation, but they're a little bit the same to me. If you painted them the same colours, I think you'd almost have you'd struggle to tell which one was which. I mean, they obviously are different, but I do like both of them.
I mean, you know me, I'm a Nurgle boy through and through, but I wasn't particularly interested in those Nurgle models at all. I don't get why they're walking on stilts. It just makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
Because the stilts only make them about a foot taller.
I need to get the pictures up now, just to have a look.
I mean, these guys are meant to be big lumbering oafs of men type thing. They're all meant to be like 7 feet tall, and they decide to basically wear big heels. Someone better remodel them to have great big platform shoes on, like Kiss. That's what they better bloody do with that, because that's all it amounts to.
Maybe, Pete. Maybe they saw the crow guy from whatever they're called, the Corvus, whatever.
Oh yeah, Corvus Cabal.
And and then just thought, actually, I'm a bit scared of heights.
Maybe not that much.
I don't want them too high. Yeah, it's a bit much. It's a bit ostentatious. That I don't know, but I do like the models. I do like the models, but they don't. They're just a bit like the original set with the kind of iron golems were very distinctive from one another. Whereas these, I mean, maybe other people disagree. These I just don't feel that distinctive from one another. Maybe it's the way they're painted them. They've got both got quite limited paint schemes. I do love the scenery. However. I
was not a fan of the scenery.
Oh, okay.
I don't like if you look at the trees, I think the bark on the trees, the limbs are meant to look like muscles, like they're like limbs.
Right.
And once you start focusing on the fact that those are all meant to look like, it looks like a load of biceps, so it just looks like a big penis bicep tree. I was just like,
yeah, I think maybe you've been watching the wrong thing.
Too much hentai.
I do see what you mean, and I do think actually that trees are one of the hardest things to get right when modelling. I know you don't particularly like our little lollipop trees that we've got for scenery, which because they're just standard. But I think these, I don't really think these are any better in some ways now, because they just trees, because they're natural. I think it's really hard to model them, and because they move. Yeah. I think it's really hard to model them properly, and I suppose that might actually be why it's quite tricky. I don't think. Well, sorry, I'm going off on one here, but I'm not that keen on them animal models either. Some of them, because I don't think they capture the essence.
The very essence of the animal,
because it's got a real world counterpart.
Yeah, true.
It doesn't really make sense, because I do think they make great human models, and they've obviously got real world counterparts. But there's something about, I suppose it's because they're more.
But it's funny.
I'd say because they're more dynamic.
But it's funny because no one minds a horse. No one minds a horse, though, do they? Just slap anything on a horse, and that looks alright for some reason.
Yeah. Yes, yes, that is true. I'm just trying to think, because actually sometimes they do look a bit naff, the horses in isolation. Like I mean, they've come a long way, but the Rohan, they painted the Rohan horses, and they work as models, but actually the horses themselves are a bit rubbish. But they're about 1,000 times better than the old horses.
Oh yeah, yeah. But I mean, it'd be interesting to see.
I do quite like John's been painting the wolves. Wolves seem to be easier to paint, actually. Yeah. So my dynamism argument is rubbish, because they're very dynamic. But John's wolves, which are Oathmark, look good. But then I think the wolves that you've done for Lord of the Rings, the Wilds, they look good too. Maybe it's fur. Fur is generally easier.
Could be.
Maybe.
Could be. So it'll be interesting to see what that Warcry is like when it comes out, and how that plays.
I think I'm guessing it's going to not be massively upgraded, but maybe some different campaign paths and things. But I'm actually quite excited about it, because I think when the last reign came out, I think that's when we were at our peak. I was at least at our peak. We've got to be relevant.
Yeah.
We've got to be on top of it. There's no point in falling behind. We've got to stay on top. And then they just brought out masses of content and all at once. I just thought, I can't do this. It's too much.
Yeah.
But actually, because we're a bit more relaxed and we're streaming the games, I think actually maybe I'd be more likely to get a couple of warbands and stream a couple of games of this in an evening. Yeah. Because it is a fun game if you don't get too hard about it.
Yeah. And we can also, but because we're streaming it, the games won't take as long to play. Because we won't be worrying about camera angles so much and things like that. And I definitely like to try these kind of games out, but with hexes instead of measuring tapes. Because I reckon if you stick that on a hex board, that game's 10 times better all of a sudden. Because there's no measuring and no faffing.
Yeah, well, once we're out of debt from AgentsCon, you can get some hex-based boards.
Some 3x3 hex-based mats. Oh yes.
Yeah. I don't want to find you in here with a crayon. Painting hexes on, or just maybe you should just stick all the spare Underworlds boards together.
I mean, you might be able to
massive flappy board.
Just gaffer tape a load of them together and work quite nicely.
Yeah.
What else?
Just a theory, at least.
We are starting to get miles behind now. So do we just want to?
Oh, never mind. Oh, God, we are, aren't we? Goodness me. So there's new Kill Team. Which I since the original Kill Team box release, I've been a bit cool on Kill Team, but I've been quite excited about this one. It's called Into the Dark, and I was really interested in the box because it's going to be close combat fighting on ships.
Yeah. And
I'm really, really hoping that GW don't kind of mess that up.
They will,
but we'll see.
They will. I mean, it's.
We'll see. I think I just keep it simple.
Yeah.
And just we'll play it. If we get it, we'll just play it and just keep it nice and simple. And maybe even strip out some of the complex stuff and just have fun with it and stop worrying about making good content. No, that's not what I mean.
Well, we tried that; it didn't work. So
that's quite cool. And it's got recruits. It's got the recruits, and I quite like the new Imperial Navy people. They're quite interesting. I quite like the extra adding out to the. I guess I don't know if they are, but this sort of Astra Militarum, that side of thing, not all space marines.
Yeah.
In fact, somebody pointed out on our Discord there wasn't a single new space marine in that entire stream, and indeed, or Stormcast. I don't think now. I think.
Yeah.
So the Necromunda stuff, there's not much point in dwelling on that. I don't particularly like the Goliath vehicle, but I have a friend who would have loved it years ago, back when I used to play. He'd have loved it because he loved Man Max. He would just thought that was amazing.
I thought it was okay, but I wasn't a massive fan of the Goliath look overall, and I thought there were aspects I didn't like about it. So yeah, I was I
haven't bought into the Necromunda Ashwaste thing at all.
Really.
I think probably because it's just a bridge too far. I think.
Yeah, Necromunda was already too far for us. It was like, that's just even more complexity on top of complexity. No, thank you.
Yeah. And then the new Blood Bowl stuff. Again, I'm going to give that a passing glance. Amazonian's vaguely interesting. Makes me feel sort of longing for the old world. Don't mean the Amazons. Yeah. It's kind of funny. It kind of shows. I mean, it's quite nice that they have the models, but I thought it kind of really highlights how far the storytelling has come in that time.
Yeah.
Because they're clearly of a product of their time. The idea of Amazonian women from Lustria or wherever they're from.
Yeah.
But it's quite a nice updating, and I like I don't think this was in the stream, but I quite like the new Lizard Man star player, who has my favourite name of any model, I think. I don't know. Being Boa Constrictor.
I do love the fact that in Blood Bowl they can have a little bit more fun with it, and it's a little bit like Moonstone in that respect. It's a little more tongue in cheek, and it's a bit silly, and that's one of the things I do love about Blood Bowl. And I do miss about Blood Bowl is that it's a bit silly, and
shame it doesn't have the rule set to go with it.
Yeah, well, that's why we have Blitz Bowl, right? And I mean, there is that third version of Blitz Bowl coming out at some point. So hopefully, at that point, we might get some. We'll get all the other teams that came out, because I would like to paint the Blood Bowl, the Black Orcs. There was the Black Orc team with the goblins that came with the Blood Bowl 3, and that would be quite nice to paint.
Yeah, which is a nice little segue. Actually, we're not as far off of this as I am, because I messed up the time. It's completely honest. A nice little segue into our Marlow moment.
Boom, 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 boom.
Yes, so this is our question supplied each week by Mr. Andrew Marlow, one of our longest standing patrons. The question I picked this week because I thought it kind of fitted, because they were doing new reveals and things. What would you like to see Games Workshop do more of? Now, I actually think this could probably be an entire discussion for an entire evening.
Masses.
But very quickly, Pete, what, on the back of this live streaming specifically, what would you like to see Games Workshop do more of?
I'd like to see them do kind of what they're already doing in some respects. I'd like them to see them do more little games, like Bladeborn was fantastic, and Fireteam was great fun, and a new Battlemasters would actually be great. But
I'm waving my hands just
people can't see
wildly
gesticulating.
Here, podcast fans. Because that's exactly what I was going to say.
But I'd like to see them support it a bit more. So with Bladeborn, release rules for all the other warbands. For Fireteam, release rules for other units and things within it and stuff like that. Blitzball they've mostly done.
Yes.
Blitzball's a fantastic example. I think in the 3rd edition that's coming out, there's going to be 19 optional teams. 19 team options in there.
Right.
So that does cover pretty much all of the Blood Bowl teams, and that's great. So it means
But also support and promote it.
Yeah.
Don't just throw it into game or whatever and then just leave it to die.
Yeah.
Or not have enough available for everybody to buy it and make it really difficult to get a hold of, and then just never talk about it ever again, because they're really good games.
Yeah.
And that's what I think. And I guess maybe they don't feel they need it. Maybe they feel like they've got enough people coming in to play Underworlds, AOS, and particularly 40k. They don't need it. But I just feel like it's a really great way of bringing new players to the game and keeping old players in when they're busy.
Yeah. And things like Blitzball as well. They're simple enough that you could play them with your kids, and that it's actually fast paced enough that your kids might actually be interested in it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think I would love to see some more small box games from them. I mean, I was thinking because I was thinking exactly what you were saying. Like a Bladeborn, they could just keep bringing out, because they've got a massive model. I know it depends on how they're arranged on the sprue, but they've got a massive model back catalogue that they could use. And so I'm not just even going beyond Underworlds, that they could make little warbands for, and you could just play Bladeborn with. Will be really good. And then we played Unmatched recently, and they could totally do their own version of Unmatched with the same rules, but that kind of thing. Rock up with any 3 hero models you like, or whatever, and just play them off against each other in a little arena combat thing. They could totally do
a bit like Super Fancy Brawl. You come along to that and you just pick 3 champions, and you have that shared deck of objectives, and each fighter has 6 cards, and you take the 6 cards from each fighter and you just shuffle them up, and you draw and play. They could do that with I mean, they've got tons and tons of things that they could use. They don't even need to produce new models for it, even just the cards.
No, exactly. And I mean, Unmatched is even simpler, because Super Fancy Brawl, it does require you can pick and choose from 3 fighters. Unmatched, each person literally only controls one person.
Yeah.
So people will enjoy it, and I think it will be a massive winner for them. And they could do it on hexes, Pete.
Oh, everything's better on hexes.
So that's our Marlow moment for this evening, a very quick one, but I think we will come back to that question of what we would like to see Games Workshop do more. But I can see it could slide into negativity, which would be a shame. But I think that was a good question, Andrew. So thank you very much. General gaming news. There isn't much. These little silly things that I found. There's a new version of a game I've never played coming out called Lion Rampant, which seems to be like historical skirmish games. So Osprey games is one of these, like Oathmark. It's just sort of little softback or hardback book. But I'm quite looking forward to having a look at that actually, because I keep looking at these historical models from companies like Victrix or like Futsal Miniatures, and I just think I'd love to paint a little warband up, and so I might just do it just anyway. And then this is kind of not really bizarre, but I know you've never played Twilight Imperium, Pete, and I've never played Twilight Imperium before, but it's supposed to be like the biggest board game ever. It comes in a massive box and takes like 10 years to play.
A bit like the Lord of the Rings board game that one of our patrons gets at every Christmas and plays for like a week.
Yeah, the War of the Ring one. I think it is similar to that. It's like a space exploration game, I think, and I hear it has tech trees.
Ooh.
So you have to exactly. But they're doing a roll and write version of it, which just seems mad to me. But apparently it'll be like not like Yahtzee where you just got one thing to write your numbers down. You've got 4 sheets of paper that interact with one another, and then it takes about 2 hours to play. It just sounds mental. But I should be following that and seeing whether it gets. It's previewed in this, or they talk about it in this month's Tabletop Gaming magazine. But I should be following the reviews to see whether it comes out as being any good. So all that, we're only 7 minutes behind schedule, leads us on to our main topic for the evening, which is, we've got 5 people watching now. Oh, there's War Machine here.
War Machine.
And John Miniatures, Grant's Miniatures here.
No, John left. He says listening tomorrow.
Oh, I see. Evening, I'm going to watch tomorrow. Okay, fair enough. Thanks, John.
Didn't want you around anyway. I feel like we need to rebrand these, because we don't just talk about the topic that we mention, and that maybe we need to need to somehow get the word out that we talk about lots of stuff. So yeah, anyway, that's something. Yeah,
it's hard, isn't it? Yeah, because this week's just like we're really ready. Well, we've still got half an hour, 35 minutes.
Yeah.
Left. I don't really know how, but I kind of titled it around our main topic because I kind of thought the agents talk about what they've been painting. Doesn't sound very interesting.
No. But it's not. It's just more like a hobby roundup as well, isn't it? So I don't know.
It is, but again, that I just kind of feel like if it's a hobby roundup, I can miss that this week.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter what they're doing. And maybe we need to put the main topic at the beginning.
Yeah, possibly, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah. So let us know if you've got any ideas. People who are watching this or listening to this on a podcast. Now, I don't really know how podcast listeners best get in touch with us, because we have.
Well, we have Facebook. They can tweet us. They can post on Facebook and all that stuff. There's links in the description, so do check us out.
Oh, absolutely. But it feels a bit like there's a disconnect, and probably that's just the way podcasts are. If you're listening to it and you want to comment, you can't.
Not easily. No, you've got to go and tweet. Or
you've got to go and find Facebook and do that. And so, I've literally never commented on any of these podcasts, and therefore not that surprised nobody's commented on ours. Particularly since the ones I listen to have lots of listeners. Anyway,
they all start somewhere.
That's by the by. Let's talk about Battlemasters. So we covered it at the beginning, and 1,000 of you or so have watched our video for at least 2 minutes about the Battlemasters game that we played with Valentin, and it's proper old school game, and it is, I think, unjustly forgotten.
I think so.
Or justly fondly remembered, depending on how you want to phrase it. I think I'm actually really quite surprised, having now played it, because I have to say, I thought it was going to be shit.
You definitely didn't seem to be as enthralled by the idea of a whole day of playing Battlemasters as I did.
No, I it was great to see Val, and it was really nice he wanted to come, but I was like, are we really going to want to play all 5 games of that? But I actually did want to play I didn't play all 5, we alternated now. But I did actually want to get through the games and play another game afterwards. Partly because he painted them so beautifully, the models, and partly because it's really good fun. So I think it's unjustly forgotten, and it has a beautifully elegant is perhaps a strong word, but simple rule set that's easy to pick up, doesn't get bogged down with its own, whatevers, and it just doesn't feel like a GW game at all. No. In that respect.
Really didn't.
Which is probably why they forgot it. But it mostly works.
Yeah. For anybody who hasn't watched the video, do go check it out. But in a nutshell, you have a deck of cards which represent the units that you each have, and you literally just keep drawing from the deck, and it will be like, oh, you can move your knights, then you can move all your knights. Everything moves one hex, and if you can move one hex, then you can attack someone adjacent to you. Some of the things have ranged weapons, so you can either move or you can shoot something that's a little further away from you. And then that's pretty much it. Combat is you both roll the same type of dice. It has 2 skulls and 1 shield on it, I think, and basically you use the same number of dice whether you're attacking or defending. You just have a number, like the knights roll 4 dice, the goblins roll 2 dice. So you each roll your dice, you take the number of skulls, subtract the number of shields from the defender. That's how many wounds they take, and that's it. 3 wounds, and any unit is then taken out of the game. Bob's your uncle.
Yeah, and it just kind of works. Except it didn't quite, but it just kind of works in that respect. It's very simple to explain, and it's very simple.
Yeah.
But I think there's 2 things that I would fix straight away, which I don't know what things you would fix.
See what yours are first.
I'll give you my first one.
Well, the reason why we discussed this is because we were wondering whether we should update it.
Yes, absolutely. Yes. So this is kind of like, actually, this is really good fun. It turns out it's a little bit one-sided.
Yeah. Without giving too much away.
And so it will be fun to tinker with it to make it less one-sided. And then we started thinking, well, should we upgrade this game? So the point of this podcast really is to ask, should we upgrade Battlemasters? Would that be something that Agents of Sigmar listeners would be interested in watching, listening to our process of improving Battlemasters? And because it's really fun. But is it that fun?
Yeah.
Because you could go down a massive rabbit hole.
Oh yeah.
Playing it, or improving it, because there's all sorts of scope for improvement and changes. And obviously, once you start to change things, you need to kind of test it, etc., etc.
Yeah.
So yeah. So let us know. I don't know if anybody's listening. Let us know. But should we upgrade Battlemasters? Now, the thing I would change first is the deck mechanic.
The what mechanic?
I think the deck.
Oh right, yeah.
I think. Well, actually, let's not talk about that, because actually, that isn't the thing I would change first. The thing I would change first is the size of the game, because I guess it was because they were just using the 28mm scale Empire models, and that's why it's the size that it is.
Yeah.
But it's about 5 foot by 5 foot, or 5 foot by 6 foot, or something.
Yeah, it's a 5 foot square mat. Yeah, it's a big old mat.
Yeah, it doesn't fit on any conventional dining room table.
No.
Unless you live in Jacob Rees-Mogg or something, in which case you don't deserve Battlemasters. Actually, that's a bit harsh. These children don't have a choice, do they? Anyway, sorry, I got off on one there. I would change the size of it.
Yeah. Just cutting that down to like a 2 or 3 foot square hex-based mat. You could put it on neoprene, and the units could be smaller. They could be like 10mm scale or something like that. In fact, I think if you knock the models down to 10mm scale, they were originally 28, so you're reducing it to about almost a third. So you're gonna knock that tabletop to about 1.5 foot ish. That'd be perfect. That would be the perfect size game for that game, I think.
Yeah, Battlemasters on an Underworlds board War Machine too.
You could almost.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be cool. Yeah, I don't know how many hexes there were on that sheet.
I've got it somewhere. But someone had scanned it in. I found a scan online of it. I could work it out. Right, I don't know whether it would work on. Underworlds might be a bit big, but you know what? Bladeborn, that those hexes were smaller. So.
Yeah. Aeronautica board.
Oh yeah.
It might be bigger.
Yeah.
But there are companies, presumably, but there are people on Etsy who do prints the miniatures as well. Aren't they?
Yeah.
So you could get the miniatures. When we were talking, I was saying we could use Warmaster miniatures. You could find old Warmaster figures. I've certainly got some Empire Warmaster models.
Because they're not
yes,
particularly massively different. Either you've got knights, you've got halberdiers, you've got archers, crossbowmen. So there's nothing bizarre there that you're not going to be able to find a Warmaster version of.
No, exactly. No, and there are people who do Warmaster type scale models, but then you did actually find somebody who did the effectively copies, if you like, of the old
of the Battlemasters ones.
Battlemasters models themselves, and they said that they could scale them. Didn't you ask them?
Yeah.
So I think they sell them at the standard scale, but they could
scale them down.
So that would just be really cool, and it would be quite fun to paint, and would look awesome on the tabletop.
Yeah.
So that's a draw. That's a definite plus in the doing it column. That just sounded wrong. And I actually then started thinking, but then you could add other races.
Oh yeah.
And things. Very exciting. I guess if you were going to do that, you'd probably start with just these work in exactly the same way as the Chaos. They just happen to be Skaven.
Exactly. Yeah, you could make a Skaven army sheet. The goblins would be slaves, the orcs would be regular Skaven, the Chaos warriors would be storm vermin, the knights would be
rat ogre.
Sorry.
A rat ogre.
A rat ogre for an ogre, an eye for an eye, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, you could easily do that. Dwarves, you'd then have more cannons and handgunners instead of other bits. But yeah, that would be easy enough to do.
Yeah, and then you could start tinkering with some race related. That sounds wrong as well. Not very good on the speech tonight. But you could change up rules, but you don't want to change up too many rules. This is the thing. This is you could very quickly see how GW slide into the abyss of complex rules. Oh, but we could just and then wouldn't it be cool if the elves moved a bit faster, or you got an extra shot or something, and then suddenly it all gets horribly complicated.
Suddenly there's 4 rule books that you have to buy. We'll never make that mistake. Coming soon. Rulebook 15
of Metal Bastards.
Metal Bastards. Metal Bastards. There we go. So what was the other thing you would change apart from the scale?
Well, the movement thing. Now, I think there was some discussion even on the day as to whether you would basically get your own cards and draw your own cards at random. And so because basically the way we played it was, you got the deck of how many cards there are, and you just drew off the top, and whatever it was. So if it was knights, human knights, the human knights moved. If it was human knights again, the human knights moved again. And if it was human knights again, then they moved again. So you could get situations where the one player moved his models and attacked 5 or 6 times in a row, which can prove pretty disastrous. So we did even discuss on the day whether you should do it alternately, so to make sure, basically take all the cards out and give them to each person, and they basically just draw their own cards at random. So you still have some randomness, because you might do your knights 3 times in a row and then not be able to do them again for ages because you draw all the knight cards. But I would mess around with that mechanic, because there's quite a few interesting mechanics around for that kind of thing. So you've got things like Wildlands, which you get a hand of cards and you play them in order, so you could choose. You get a little bit of choice as to what order you play things in.
Yeah. So you might have.
You could even just.
Sorry. So you might have a bunch of cards, and they might all be for your opponent's troops, but at least you can then pick the order that they're going to activate, and hope that in between times your opponent has a load of your cards that they're going to have to choose, so that you've got some chance there, and you could say, okay. His cannon's miles away, so I'm going to play the cannon card now because it's not going to be as effective right now, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, you could vary it, couldn't you? You could either do it that way, where all the cards were mixed, so everybody was getting both, or you could have just your own, so you were picking your own. There various ways you could break it down. That would be quite interesting. So that I think that's where I'd start tinkering, would be with the movement, and maybe scaling back. And there was one particular, I don't want to spoil it in the video, but there's one particular troop type, which seems to, if it gets 3 or 4 activations in quick succession, which it seems to do quite a lot, is very powerful. So I would experiment with maybe giving them less activations, or maybe more activations on the opposing team, a bit of their equivalent force.
Yeah, the other thing I thought about was because every unit can only take 3 wounds before it's wiped out, which means any troop choice that you've got which is rolling 3 or more dice has the chance to just wipe somebody out in one go.
Yeah.
And I wondered whether it would help if you made all the foot troops, because the models themselves, all the mounted troops have 3 models on a base, and all of the foot troops have 5 models on a base, would be to make all the foot troops, which are inherently generally weaker most of the time, have 5 wounds before they get wiped out, and the cavalry stayed on 3, which would mean that the cavalry, whilst they're generally rolling more dice, they're a bit more glass cannon. They'll potentially get bogged down against large rank and file units, which would happen in real life as well if you don't strike and break them
it would,
quickly.
yeah.
Then so you have to be a bit more careful with your knights. You can't just commit them all,
yeah,
and then have them buzzsaw through everything, because if they're not supported, they'll quickly get just sort of bogged down in rank and file, and maybe that would help level things out a little.
Yes, I wonder whether you could add supports.
Oh yeah, that was another one we
Underworld
talked about.
Underworld style, because it's obviously all hex based. So then you make your rank and file troops a little bit more better, because you could keep them together, and then when the knights or whatever were attacking them, they'd have to think about where they were coming from. Otherwise, you could have supports. I mean, you could do that thing you were saying with the 5. Is it 5 wounds? Did you say? Yeah, you could definitely do that. I think. Yes. Then I was wondering whether maybe you could balance it out. If it was too strong, you could maybe balance it by saying, well, once they've gone below 3 fighters, they actually roll less dice, so they'd stay better for a time, and then they wouldn't be as strong.
Yeah.
But I don't know. There's definitely things you could do that will make the game more modern and say more interesting is the wrong word, but
I think just make it a little bit more
just
involved.
things you could tinker with.
Just a little bit of depth, but not too much that it's overwhelming.
Yeah, because it is a bit random.
Yeah,
isn't it? I mean, there are some quite nice choices you have to make. Like getting in the tower is quite good. I think maybe the scenarios I think it was kind of always one team that ended up in the tower. And so maybe the tower, there's been a few situations where the tower is a bit more contested because it's quite strong.
Yeah, it gives you quite a boost really for what is quite a limited system anyway. And I'd also like to try and play around with, because there are some dug-ins and there are some barricades and some other bits. I'd like to see it where you could maybe modify the board a bit more with a few more things like impassable areas and things like that.
Yeah. Yes, although I guess you had to be careful it didn't get too bottlenecked. Yeah. But that's part of the interesting thing about the game actually, because we did have a situation where you had to make suboptimal choices because you hoped you'd get a card which would move the unit out of the way, and then you immediately don't, of course. As soon as you think, I'll just put the goblins there because I'm bound to get a goblin card before I get a Chaos Warrior card. Next card comes out, it's the Chaos Warrior card.
So I think there's a lot there that we could possibly play with. It depends on our listeners and our viewers what they think, but is that something people would like to see us do? Obviously there'd be a little bit of an investment up front because we'd have to get a new mat. I think we probably would need to get a Neoprene mat or something like that.
Need some models probably.
Yeah, and we'd have to get some of the smaller models and stuff like that as well. But I reckon it would, because also they had those little flags and the little movement bases and things.
Yeah. You
wouldn't necessarily need that so much. You could just have a little thing that had their symbol on, and you could just have an A5 card which just had your units on with the symbol, so you know who was what, and a little check mark for how many wounds they'd taken or something like that.
Yeah.
Lots of ideas.
Wound tokens.
We wouldn't even
Wound
necessarily
tokens.
need wound tokens, would you? If you had a little O5 thing with a little thing you could just cross off.
No, I'm having flashbacks to my horrors of Marvel Crisis Protocol.
Yeah, well,
All the cards.
that's what I'm thinking. If we got rid of
drawing on
get
things.
rid of the wound tokens,
I know you don't.
but
Yeah.
you could have, and GW used to do this a lot in their games. I don't do it so much anymore. We used to get, like in Blood Bowl, the original game, they did like a little pad of printed team sheets, so you could write out the team, and it was on a little pad. They peeled the individual sheets peeled off. You never used them. Couldn't use them because obviously there were a finite amount, so that you can use any of them. So you would photocopy it badly onto like a piece of A4 paper and photocopy that a million times instead and use those. But you could do something like that.
Yeah, still got the pads.
Yeah,
Even though you haven't played the game for 35 years.
Yeah. You did one, you wrote one team, you misspelled something, you crossed out, you got angry, you ripped it off, and then you thought, right, I'm not doing that again, I'm photocopying, I'm not making that mistake twice.
Is it like writing in your fighting fantasy book?
Yeah. Who does that? What kind of a monster does that?
Well, I did the first one because I didn't know any better.
He's released a 40th, is it Ian Livingston's released a 40th anniversary fighting fantasy book?
Oh really?
So.
I haven't seen that.
And I think, what's the name of the other guys? Ian Livingston and
Steve
Steve Jackson. I think they've both released a new fighting fantasy book, or are coming up soon.
Oh.
Should have put that in our news bit.
I'm looking now. You carry on talking about Battlemasters because I'm.
So that's pretty much it. We came up with a lot of ideas for Battlemasters, and I think the thing that really captured it for us was the fact that it was a nice simple game. It wasn't very taxing. It was quick and easy to play. It would have been quicker if it had been on a smaller board and we didn't have to keep walking across the room to move a unit and then go back and sit down and turn another card over and realise you've got to walk back across the room to move that same unit again. I feel like doing that would just give us something interesting to do.
Yeah.
Maybe we should see if Warmaster's suggesting Warmaster's confirming that the September release for both Ian Jackson and Ian Livingston, Steve Jackson.
Okay. Yes, I just saw September. The thing I saw it on didn't have any date when the post was written. So I thought maybe it was last year. Yes, the Shadow of the Giants.
That's it.
And the Secrets of Salamonis.
Maybe at AgentsCon 22, maybe we can get Val to bring back Battlemasters, and we'll be able to stick a couple of tables together. Then she'd be able to reach. We'd have to get a couple of those sticks though with the little pushy bits on that generals would use, and then we could finally play it on there. Go on, Val. You know you want it.
I actually met Steve Jackson and Ian Livingston.
Did you?
Back in the day. At Games Workshop in Birmingham. They were doing a book signing, and I went along with my fighting fantasy books. And Steve Jackson did a puzzle book called The Task of Tantalov, which I've still got signed.
Be worth something, though.
Yeah.
Might you sort of quit?
Well, it's not worth that much actually. I think I did look because I did sell off a load of stuff a while ago, and it wasn't worth that much. It wasn't worth enough to make me want to part.
No. Even if it was worth a lot, I mean, I'd want to keep it even more. Then I think.
Well, there are some things that you do, and then other things. I had some signed David Gemmell books, and I sold those because they were just cluttering up the space, and I was never going to read them, and they were worth quite a lot of money. So I sold those, and I kind of regret this, and also kind of don't. I sold my Lost and the Damned, Chaos Lost and the Damned, because that was quite hard to get hold of. Because I think it had a fairly limited print. But I sold it for like 75 quid or something.
Didn't GW re-release it?
But then they re-released it shortly afterwards. Well, a few years afterwards.
Brand spanking.
So I thought actually I could buy it. I could buy it and get a new one. But actually, the reason I ended up selling it was because I did love that book. I think of all the books I had, it was my favourite. But actually, I barely used it because it came out towards the end of my GW role playing. I used it for role playing more than for battle. And it came out towards the end of my GW career at that point in time, so it was barely used. And of course, when I came back to the hobby, it was useless.
Yeah.
So, although I loved it, it was actually pointless keeping it. I was never going to look at it. In the same way as I've kept hundreds of issues of White Dwarf from back in the day. I did keep. I think I haven't got very many left now, but they get it utterly pointless. Oh yeah, I'll look at those one day, but of course you don't, because they don't bear any relation to the games as they are now.
Yeah.
So they're quite nice from a nostalgic point of view. And I've kept a couple of issues, like you got me that issue 53, which I love because it has some other significance rather than just I might look at the Warhammer Fantasy Roleplaying Adventures, but I won't. so
I might, but I won't.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, Battlemasters version 2. Maybe that is something that we should look to try and do. Maybe the first step at some point in the nearest future would be to come up with a scaled down set of board, and maybe even start with, if we don't bother looking for models, maybe we just get some tokens and we could just do it that way. Maybe. I think half the fun is having some little models though.
I'm going to say, you can't do it without the models. I mean, you could play test stuff,
yeah,
but you can't do it without the models.
It's a bit like what was the Ascension Tactics, the game?
If I was Piers Morgan, I'd have left at that point. I've just gone.
But you realised.
Got those off. And
But you've realised you're not an insufferable
left.
prick, so you weren't going to.
Yeah.
It's a bit.
Well, let's not be hasty.
I could still be an insufferable prick. It's a bit like Ascension Tactics. Like playing that, I really enjoyed that, but it's like just needs some models. It's just some, maybe a couple of models.
You'd have to have jumped on the Kickstarter for that and then paid vastly more money.
Yeah, that's the problem with that kind of thing. It's like when you're eating something, it just needs like a little bit of salt. It's just missing a little bit of plastic. That's all I need.
Yeah, well, I don't know how much it would cost. It probably won't be very expensive for the models, especially in small scale.
Well, I think it was still about 70 quid for.
Oh, okay, that's more expensive than I thought.
I think that was for all the models, and that is custom printing them, I guess, at 10mm scale.
Yeah,
so
I suppose. Yeah,
you're paying more for the effort of printing them and stuff than you are for the actual cost of plastic, aren't you?
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll just have to get more patrons.
Yeah.
To come to AgentsCon.
Come to AgentsCon. Join the Patreon. Yep. Do it.
Yeah. Yes. We need cards as well. We need the cards.
We would, but we could print those out and just laminate some in the short term, and then come up with something better.
Or just put them in sleeves.
Yeah. Oh yeah, just sleeve them. Yeah, that'd be easy, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mini junkies do need the plastic, says Dead Hands. That is 100% true. Everything's better with it.
Dead Hands would love to see us take on this project.
Good.
So there's only 5 people watching, so that's a pretty good, and one of those is me. So like 25% of people are interested in us taking this project.
If there's 2 out of 5,
if you
like
include
40%.
me, it goes up to 40%. Well, yeah, I wasn't including myself, but if we take it up to, so 1 out of 4, but if we include me, it's 2 out of 5.
There we go. 40% of people want a new version of Battlemasters. But that, I think, that's. It just feels like it could be a fun project to do, and I think as we're going to take a bit more of a laid back approach, we've probably almost definitely completely given up on the idea of ever doing serious campaigns of games, because it just requires so much effort in between games. I'm not saying never, but it's like the minute you have to start writing down and remembering things, we're done for.
It's because we're magpies as well.
Yeah, there is that.
So, I mean, that's the other thing to consider. If we do start this Battlemasters thing, we'll make 2 changes to the rules and then never use it.
Probably. It won't be our worst.
Because we must play Middle Earth. Middle Earth. We played that, really enjoyed it, and then haven't done it.
I can see Middle Earth being something that we'd play lots of one-off skirmish games that we wouldn't actually ever play.
Yes.
Although that does do a lot of it for you, so there is still that aspect of it.
But the Battle Company's manager is pretty good, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
I think we need to get this streaming off done, and then we can play multiple games in the evening. And just
we know how playing multiple games in an evening goes, but
when I say multiple, I mean 2. 2 is a multiple.
But I mean same system though, yeah, same game system.
Oh yeah.
All right, cool, yeah. Because we know it's like when we try.
Anything else would be madness.
Yeah. We used to do that with Underworlds. We used to play a game of Underworlds and then try and play a game of Kill Team or something like that. That was doomed to failure.
Yeah, that's doomed to failure. That's what we should have called our channel.
Yeah. Or Clueless Fuckwits, one of the two. But there we go. Right.
Yeah, so now we rushed through, and now we've got 10 minutes left, and we've kind of. I was a bit worried that changes to Battlemasters wouldn't actually take up a lot of time. I think that's because when I had the idea, we had played it, Battlemasters, and we had talked about it a lot. But of course, we haven't talked about it that much, and I can't quite remember how the rules worked. Things like that. Like, I'd completely forgotten that you rolled dice, the bespoke dice. I'd completely forgotten that.
But I think it'd be quite good, because we talked about having like the assisting, like in Underworlds, but I think that would go really well, because it's just a simple extra little dynamic where it's a case of if you've got that, it gives you a little bit extra to do a little bit extra damage, but not masses. It's not overpowered, and it sort of rewards you for keeping your troops near each other, whereas in the old version of the game, you know, one particular type of model could easily just plough off through and not have to worry about if they were on their own or not for the most part.
No, again, and that would mitigate the if you've got multiple cards for your knights, it would mitigate the fact that if you charge them up into enemy territory on their own, they actually would be, you know, if you could get people to surround them, you know, your enemy surrounding you, they would be a deep shit. Whereas, as it stands, they're no worse.
Yeah,
they're no worse if they're, you know, if they're just 1-on-1. If it's 3-on-1, it doesn't,
because they're not all going to get a chance to necessarily attack before the knights get to wipe someone else out, and then somebody else out. And another
and it's the same dice roll. The dice rolls aren't any more weighted as a result, so it doesn't, you know, the net effect of having 3 units of maybe a different thing. There's no bonus.
Yeah, and another thing, and this is how we were talking about the GW. Just suddenly go, and we could do this, and we could do this, and we could do this. But you could then have, like, the units could have different little extras, like if the knights move a hex nearer to the person they're attacking before they attack them, they get +1 dice or something like that. Whereas the Wolf Riders, you could say, you know, after their attack they can move a hex away or something like that, you know, just to give each of the units a little bit more flavour.
You are going down the trap.
Yeah, that's the trap, isn't it?
Going down the trap.
I do feel, I did think of one other thing I would change. And I think I would change the range that the archers and the crossbowmen fired at. I feel like they should shoot more hexes. Not many, but like the archers only shoot 2 hexes and the crossbows shoot 3. It feels like it should be maybe 3 and 4 or 4 and 5.
Yeah. Crossbows shouldn't be able to shoot every turn though. That's the thing with crossbows.
I can't remember, because
you can't do that though.
I think like archers should be able to move and shoot, but maybe they should get -1 dice if they do that. But crossbowmen can't move and shoot. It's move or shoot.
Full stop.
Yeah.
That would be reasonable.
And these are all very simple, tiny things that you could have in a single line underneath the unit description. This is the thing they do, and not a massive change.
And I wonder whether you could use Underworlds dice as well. But I don't know how well that would go. But it would be easy if you counted the swords and the hammers as hits. And then it would start to get you need some blanks for misses, don't you? I guess you could maybe have the. I can't remember what the dice distribution was.
I think it was just 2 skulls and 1 shield.
Right. Okay. So.
War Machine does ask if we're going to make any more Lord of the Rings LCG videos, Robin. He enjoys seeing the frustrations trying to take down the hill troll.
I would love to. I've just been too busy. So I started doing the preparation for my next one about a fortnight ago, and it ended. I think I had 2 goes, and it started to get a bit better. And then I haven't got back to it. There's just too many things, and I'm too lazy. Not lazy. I'm inefficient. I'm not lazy. I'm always busy, but I'm just inefficient. I'm not busy effectively. So I definitely want to play more, but it's finding the time to get there. That's the problem. I mean, Pete and I have been talking about whether we might meet more often if we do streaming and actually stream on Tuesday nights in the same location sometimes. So then maybe we could play more games like that together and stream it.
Yeah,
that might be fun. But I do want to. But it's just it's finding the time to do all the stuff, because they do require more. Ironically, they require more preparation, because although it's just me playing on my own, there's no point in me just playing. just turning up and playing, because it won't go very well, and then that's no good for anybody. So I do want to play. Is the answer to that question, War Machine? It's just finding the time, and I was thinking, I don't know whether you do this, Pete. I was thinking, I've achieved quite a lot this week. I've done the painting that I need to do, and I've written a couple of things for Geek Dad, and I think, oh shit, I haven't played Middle Earth, or I haven't cooked the dinner.
God, I haven't fed the children again.
So,
bloody hell.
Yeah, that's where I'm at the moment, because I was thinking, I'm really on top of everything. Then I realised I hadn't cut the unmatched video, so I did that, and then I realised I was behind something else. Tomorrow, I'm going to have to do the cutting of the podcast episode. And then I've been writing up the podcast episodes for Geek Dad to try and get a bit more traction for the podcast, and that takes some time. So I'm not sure that it has gained any extra traction, but you never know. So it's all good fun. But yeah, so I do definitely want to play more, and I will endeavour to do so. But unfortunately, I do have magpie syndrome or squirrel syndrome, and other things catch my eye, and then I go off and do that. So that is a real problem for me. It's something I probably need to work on. 50 next year, maybe it's time to settle down.
There's just too many shiny plastic things to come out to steal our time. But if I ever win the Euro Millions, then obviously I'll be playing something different. I'll stream a different thing every single day.
And I think, bizarrely, I mean, I do have a social media problem. It's not too awful, but I do have a tendency to doom scroll. And obviously, with the state of politics of the UK at the moment, there's an awful lot of doom scrolling going on, and I almost need to lock this thing in a box. That's my phone, podcast fans, so that I don't look at it. But then I miss out on the Discord. And that's the problem.
Yeah,
because the Discord is really important to lots of things. And so I almost need to take various things off the phone, which I never do, so there's no point in saying that. But I need to focus more. That's what my mum would tell you, and in that respect she was right.
She was just wrong in every other respect.
Yeah, pretty much.
This is the problem, isn't it? It's just there's too many things, too much to draw your attention, both good and bad. Like I say, the doom scrolling and all the crap that's going on in the world, but at the same time it's very hard to then concentrate. I mean, day job for me as well. You've got all the housework, kids and stuff like that. It's just it's very easy to just get into.
Yeah, I think we're focusing very heavily on the Lord of the Rings here. I think the problem with the Lord of the Rings card game is, like painting, there's definite mindful. My wife sees the benefit of that, and I could squeeze in 25 minutes here, half an hour there. But the Lord of the Rings card game, it's at least an hour, probably, certainly before I started playing, and it's literally just me playing cards on my own. Just with everything else that I should be doing with my time, it just never feels like it's the best use of time.
Yeah, it's definitely one of the most luxuriant things you can do, is to just say, I'm going to shut myself in a room on my own and play cards for an hour and a half. Just
exactly.
At least when it's like when we meet up, there's an organised thing. I'm going to your house, you've got me coming over. There's that kind of aspect to it.
There's a social interaction which is important, so that we don't go mad.
Exactly, but that is just it's tough.
My son's actually home off school at the moment because he's finished his GCSEs, and so we have started playing board games.
There you go.
We've only done it 2 days in a row, but we started playing board games this week. So that's quite cool. So we're going to play Undaunted tomorrow, because we have not played that before. We've been playing Azul, which because he is a bit of a maths genius and his pattern recognition skills are off the charts. And so I haven't won. I haven't come close to winning yet.
Damn it.
So I think that's going to be the story of my summer, because he is amazing at just seeing what you need to do to win the game. All the games we've played so far. And so, like, we used to play the Ascension game with him that isn't the not the tactics one that we played on the channel, but just the deck builder, and he would just always build the machine that he built by the end of the game would just be churning out victory points. So I've just been watching, going, what's going on?
Young man's game.
So we're going to play Undaunted. I've got the June Imperium game too. I'm going to dig that out and play with him. I've been playing with my younger one. We've been playing Machikoro, which is always
just to put it back around to sort of the subject title a bit. This is the reason why I like things like Battlemasters and stuff like that, because you can't game the system to make it, the thing you're doing, that much more super efficient than your opponent. You're on a level. Well, I mean, the game's a bit unbalanced, but you're on a level pegging for the most part. There is none of that not being able to spend 2 hours beforehand preparing for it type thing, and that's what I like about them. Gives us old fogies a chance.
Yeah. But the only problem is for me, and I don't. Yeah, the only problem is you run the risk if it's just luck, then it becomes pointless playing.
Yeah. There needs to be getting that balance of skill.
It's a thin line.
Yeah.
It's a thin line between overcomplicating it.
Yes. That's why I think Battlemasters right now, it relies just a bit too much on random chance. There's some skill there, but I think the chance outweighs the skill, and I think we need to pull the skill back in a little bit.
And because it's not weighted, because it's not quite weighted fairly.
Yeah.
It's not even at the end of the day. I don't think it's even down to chance. It's very, very hard to win if you're on one side. One other thing we might play War Machine is when my other son is off, because he's big into his Marvel stuff. We might play some Marvel Champions. Maybe get some Marvel Champions games onto the channel, because I've got the Sinister Motives box over there that I really want to play. And I'm going to make him play it with me, so he's not just sitting on his computer all day when he's finished school. And that brings us to 11 o'clock.
It's 11 o'clock and all is well.
Yeah, so I think you're right, Pete. We probably do need to stop calling these titles. Just call it Robin and Pete Ramble On.
Yeah. Hobby Roundup, something, I don't know. Answers on a postcard. Let us know what you think we should call this. And let your friends and your relatives and your neighbours and everybody know that they should listen to it anyway, because it's not just about Battlemasters or whatever else the subject is.
It's about all sorts.
Yeah.
Robin and Pete's smorgasbord, hobby smorgasbord, agents of smorgasbord.
Yeah. Agents of random guff.
Arg!
So with that, we will say good night to you all. Thank you for listening, tuning in. If you're live now, or if you're listening to us later on the podcast, do get in contact with us on Twitch. On Twitch, on Twitter, on Facebook, on YouTube. Do let us know what you're enjoying. Do let us know what you'd like to see. And hopefully you're going to start seeing a lot more of us live. And hopefully that'll be a good thing.
Yes, that'd be really good. It'd be really good if we get up a whole live stream following for games and stuff. That would be awesome. More than 5 would be lovely. But thank you for the 5 who were watching. It's really nice to have you on, and it's really, really great to talk to you wherever you are.
Yeah.
And hopefully,
and don't forget,
beyond War Machine.
And don't forget,
not all bots.
And don't forget, AgentsCon 22, September 24th. Do keep your eyes peeled for that. We will be shouting about it, and more information will be following soon.
Absolutely. Cheers,
Thanks
guys.
all for tuning in and listening, and we'll speak to you soon. Bye.